thanks everyone for being here. I am so excited to share my program Vista, which I've been working on for the last few years. In fact, I did a big ideas talk at the Ashoka Exchange 3 years ago, and now it's a thing. And so I think Vista is an example of how we can take our big ideas and put them into action. It's so exciting. So let me share my screen and we can get started. So I'm going to talk about educating for action, how to expand access to immigrant justice. And I'm an immigration lawyer and law professor. And so I came to this work out of a real desire to make a change in access to immigrant justice. But before I get into that, I just wanted to tell you that I'm also so grateful to be a J.M. Kaplan Innovation Prize winner. So I won the prize the last time that it was offered 2 years ago. And it has been a life-changing experience for me. And so I'm really fortunate because J.M. Kaplan is sponsoring my talk today. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone in the room knows about this Innovation Prize. It's an amazing program in addition to getting $175,000, which is a huge amount of money to really jumpstart an innovative social innovation. There's also a great team of supporters in JM Kaplan that provide you with guidance and really are there to answer any questions that a new person who's starting something from scratch needs to know. So I've just really benefited from the program, and I wanted to make sure that you knew about it and that your friends know about it. So share this with others as well. And applications are open until the end of April. So let me jump in and talk about Vista. Vista is an online certificate program to train immigrant advocates. A lot of people don't know that you don't need to be a lawyer to become part of the solution. So for me, this is a picture of a young child in immigration court. And as an immigration lawyer, I see this on a regular basis going into immigration court and seeing people who don't have representation. And after doing that for so many years, I really needed to become part of the solution. And I needed to become a change maker. And so I'm a social entrepreneur because I'm doing my changing through Villanova. And Villanova is offering this certificate program to train immigrant advocates. And it's really a passion of mine, and I'm seeing the possibilities to make change in real meaningful ways through this program. So I believe that everyone deserves an advocate. Right now, there's 1.2 million immigration cases pending in immigration court, and 60% of immigrants, including immigrant children, go to court without representation. And the statistics, the research shows us that people are 10 times more likely to be granted an immigration benefit if they have an advocate as opposed to those who are not represented. And I reached out to the American Immigration Lawyers Association just to get a sense of how many of its members provide representation to clients in immigration court. And it's less than 4,000 people. So that means that of all the lawyers who are doing this work, each lawyer would have to do about 300 cases in order to provide representation to everyone. And based on my own experience as an immigration lawyer, there's no way. These cases are so complicated. There's no way that the lawyers can meet the demand. So on top of that, in the BidenHarris proposed legislation, they hope to provide legalization to 1.1 million people, and all of those people will need representation as well as DACA students who can apply for DACA or get renewals of DACA. So there's so much work to be done. And so Vista is designed to train more immigrant advocates. And a lot of people don't know that there's a pathway for people to become what's called a Department of Justice accredited representative. and provide legal services to immigrants, both in front of the Department of Homeland Security and the immigration courts. So this authority has been on the books for decades. But there's still only 2,000 accredited representatives nationwide. And it's a shame because we know that there's so much need out there. So there are two levels of Department of Justice accreditation. The first level is called partially accredited representatives. And those people, when they work with recognized non-for-profit organizations, are authorized to provide limited legal services to immigrants and represent immigrants before the Department of Homeland Security. So usually that's in applications before USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So any kind of affirmative application, from a work permit to affirmative application for asylum, can be handled by a partially accredited representative before USCIS. So those are DACA applications, they're applications for U visas for victims of crimes, for T visas, victims of human trafficking, adjustment of status, temporary protected status. We just learned that the Biden administration is providing temporary protected status to Venezuelans and to people from Myanmar. And so we need to get capacity for advocates so that they can help people to process their applications and become eligible for these benefits. And everything that I just listed can be done by someone who's partially accredited. In addition, those who want to continue to provide even more legal services can become fully accredited representatives. And those accredited representatives are authorized to represent immigrants in immigration court and before EOIR, just like a lawyer would. So you'd go to immigration court, you'd sit at counsel table, you'd represent a client, do an opening statement, a closing argument, just like a lawyer does. And that's what I'm training people to do, because I'm taking my 20 years of experience as an immigration law professor, and I'm now packaging it in a different way, creating an online training program so that I can reach people across the country and help them to become immigrant advocates. So I kind of see Vista, this program that I've developed, as a bridge between all those immigrant families who are fighting for justice. And I see this all the time. When I go to immigration court, when I meet with immigrants, they ask me questions like, what are my rights? How can I protect my family? Am I eligible for DACA? Am I eligible for a green card? Come with me, I'm afraid. Help me to keep my family together. And on the other side of the bridge are people like you and students in your colleges and friends who want to become part of the solution. I call them passionate champions for immigrant justice, people who believe that refugees are welcome, that they believe in social justice, they believe in peace and justice, they believe that people should have representation if they're confronting the immigration system, because the government always has a lawyer, but immigrant families oftentimes don't. And so Vista is a way to bridge and give people the education that they need in order to meet the needs of people in their local communities. And so there are a lot of students in Vista. It launched in August, and we already have more than 100 students. But let me introduce you to a few of them. Kate is a senior at Stanford University, and she's interested in law school. She's a major in international relations and in Spanish. And she said to me, I want to help people. I'm considering law school. With Vista, I can test it out before fully committing to the investment of 3 years and thousands of dollars in law school tuition. Teach me so I can use my college majors to help people while also seeing if I like to learn law. And then Adam is a recent college grad. He's a millennial. He did a Fulbright scholarship in Brazil. And he says, I'm pissed off. This needs to change, and I want to become part of the solution. Teach me so I can make an immediate impact by providing support to immigrants in my community. And then there's Hillary, who's a university professor. She teaches at a local college, Arcadia, actually, here in the Villanova area. And she came to me because she said, I'm writing a book about immigration, and I want to understand immigration law. I'm also considering starting a service learning program for students on my campus to help immigrant families in our community. So she's taking the program so she can teach others, her students, and also to improve her scholarship. And then Jane is an alumnus of a university. She's seeking an encore career. She's a former professional. She's financially comfortable. And I have a lot of students who are encore career students or retirees in the program. So, people who are alumni of organizations, of universities might also be interested in Vista. And she says, I hate what I'm seeing happen in my country. I can't just stand by and watch. I need to take action. Teach me so I can become part of the solution. And so let me tell you a little bit about the design process of Vista because I'm really proud of it. I'm pretty much like I'm like a teaching and learning geek, and so I'm really excited about all the innovations that I included in this curriculum. First of all, I was very fortunate because right from the beginning, I got a grant from the MacArthur Foundation, and that allowed me to pull together stakeholders and employers from the community who could help me to identify what I needed my graduates to know when they graduated from the program. So I started with the end in mind. I started with a list of competencies, and then my job was to create a curriculum where I could ensure that my students learned what I needed them to learn. And so that's what I've done. So everything in the curriculum is designed to align with something that people would do on the job as an accredited representative. And it's very learner-centered. I'm famous for saying that teaching and learning are two different verbs by two different sets of actors. But oftentimes, as a professor, I assume that if I taught something, my students have learned it. But what I do in this program is really approach learning from a student-centered perspective, so that everything that I'm teaching, I'm thinking about it in terms of what I want my students to learn and how can they best learn that material. And it's working because the results have been really positive. And it's also very holistic in that in law school, the focus is on immigration law. But in order to be an effective advocate, you need to know so much more than the law. So what I've done in this curriculum, and you'll see in a future slide, is I really thought about all the things that people need to know in order to become effective advocates, and I've incorporated that into the curriculum. And of course, it's interdisciplinary because there's no way that you can learn and really be an effective immigrant advocate if you don't approach this from an interdisciplinary perspective. So we learn right from the beginning why people migrate, how, the role of the migrant, even in religious traditions, we focus on that. We talk about immigration history, but we also talk about trauma-informed care and self-care and active listening and storytelling. It's such a robust curriculum. I love it. And it's also very practical and project-based. So the students are like in a position to put their learning to work and actually engage with the material. And so this is what I was talking about the holistic nature of the curriculum. So I connected the dots for you. And why I say that is in most academic programs, students take individual courses. And it's up to the student to figure out how they all connect and relate to each other. So in immigration, in law school, for example, you would take a course in immigration law. You'd take a separate course in interviewing and counseling, a separate course in trial advocacy, a separate course in research, a separate course in writing. And it's up to you as the student to figure out how it all works together. Well, in Vista, I approached it from a different perspective, from the student's perspective, so that right from the beginning, you see how all of these topics relate together. So you're not learning these things in isolation, but instead, each learning activity involves more than one of the course topics. So as an example, one of the first activities that you'll do in Vista is to interview a family member or a friend about a cultural or a religious tradition. and you plan the interview, and then after the interview, you write a memo to the file. So that series of exercises involves many of these course topics all in one series of exercises. So we have interviewing and counseling, cross-cultural understanding, understanding religious tradition, writing, case planning, all within one or two exercises. And it's like that throughout the curriculum. And I also want to point out that there are parts of the program that focus on self-care, because in order to be an effective immigrant advocate, you really need to take care of yourself front and center. And then we also incorporate professional development into the curriculum. So it's not something that you think about as an afterthought, but right from the beginning, you're thinking about how best you're going to be able to prove what you've learned to a potential employer. And then this other icon for hot topics in immigration law, I organize a series of sessions where I bring in experts so that students can get to know like the things and talk about the things that are happening in the news on immigration. And I know that everyone learns in different ways, so the program is also focused on reaching you in the way that you learn best. So there's opportunities to read and to write, to watch videos, to listen to podcasts, to share with colleagues, to assess other people's work, because you learn a lot by giving feedback to others, but also engage in self-reflection and self-critique so that you're in a process and have a mindset toward growth and toward learning from your own experiences. So this is my call to action. Join the movement. Encourage students to enroll in Vista over the summer, or even enroll in Vista in the summer and maybe connect it with an internship. Promote it as a gap year opportunity, either before law school or graduate school, or even between high school and undergrad. You might have attended this session earlier today about the Student Clinic for Immigrant Justice, but I would encourage you, if your school is interested in starting an immigration clinic on campus that can help to provide legal representation, to partner with SCIJ. Another thing is to support and let faculty and staff on campus know about Vista. Right now in the program, we have at least 10 people who are faculty or staff members from universities. People who, like Hillary, want to learn about immigration because it ties into their scholarship or their teaching. There's also people who work in offices that focus on supporting international students, so they're enrolled in the program. There's academic deans and retired provosts, so there's a lot of opportunity for people on campus, especially those who work with DACA students, to learn through the program. Also communicate about this with alumni and just fundraise to expand immigration offerings on your campus. So again, the application process for the J.M. Kaplan Innovation Prize, which was really central to taking this from an idea to actually a program. That prize, the applications are open until April 30th, so I'd encourage you to go to the jmk.org website and tell your friends and colleagues and other change makers on campuses and alumni about this wonderful opportunity. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can answer your questions. But I also have my email here, pistone@law.villanova.edu, if you have any questions, or you can follow me on LinkedIn or on Twitter at Prof Pistone. Let me stop sharing my screen. Ta-da. Okay, so if you want to turn on your camera, I'd love to see your faces. If not, we have a few minutes left, and I'd love to answer questions. I can tell you more details about the program. Manuela, I know that I connected with you earlier today through the Ashoka system, so I'm glad to see you here. And I really think that students at St. Thomas, I taught a few years ago in Rome. It was a joint program between the law school at Villanova and the law school at the University of St. Thomas. So I actually taught students at the University of St. Thomas, and I just loved them. And I do think that there's a lot of energy and interest in social justice and the common good and human dignity among those students. So if you can help me spread the word within your community about this program, that would be great. So Erica and Mia, I'm not sure if you have any questions. Are you students or are you administrators?
Hi.
Hi, Mia.
So
Oh,
I
Erica.
don't have any questions. Yes, sorry, it's Erica. I just wanted to say that the presentation was amazing. I'd heard about you from Michelle King, who's at Ashoka, and Jonathan Goldman from SCIJ also raved about your work. So I was so excited to hear more about Vista, and I'm planning on going to law school in the fall, and just kind of thinking about all the different intersections that you talked about. And I mean, I've also worked at the Department of Justice at various times in my career, and I had no idea that this advocacy work existed. And it's just so amazing that this space is here and that you've found a way to make real change. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's so cool. Like, so Erica, isn't it crazy that people don't know about it even when you work within DOJ?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in like way different aspects of DOJ than immigration, but I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's just awesome that since the representation is just not available, it seems like only 4,000 lawyers to handle millions of cases. Like, yeah, what an amazing thing that you've been able to do.
Yeah, so I would I mean, I don't know what your interest is after law school, but it might be interesting if you have time over the summer to think about doing Vista. Even one semester might help to set you up for law school. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I will for sure look into that. That'd be great.
And Mia, you're an undergraduate student, and what's your like focus? What's your major? We have like 5 more minutes. I talked fast so I could leave time for questions. Um, yeah, so Manuela asked about scholarships. The program, so let me tell you that the certificate program is a 3 semester program, and each module is 14 weeks. So it's pretty intense. The students say that they work between 10 and 15 hours a week on their work, and you can take the program, you can take one module, you could take one and two together, or you could take one, two, and three. So it's like stackable credentials that students can do at their own pace, and they don't even have to do them like one after another. If they want to take time off between the semesters, that's fine. So the cost, as Manuela said, it's about $3,800 plus the books for the 3 semesters. And we do have scholarships available right now for students who are located in and or interested in serving the population in Southern California. So the Augustinian Foundation, which is located in San Diego, gave us scholarship money for people who are going to serve that community and who are affiliated with non-governmental organizations providing legal services in that community. So if you know of anyone in Southern California who might be interested in Vista, please send them my way. As to other scholarships, we're working on that right now. So we're still doing fundraising to raise money for other scholarships. But feel free to have your students, if they're interested, to have them apply, because we're getting more support every day, and so to the extent that they're kind of in the system, we'll be able to notify them when opportunities arise for scholarships. So any other questions?
Michelle, I have a question for you. I think this is such amazing work, and you had so much impact, I think, already. When you think 5 years in the future, or like 7 years in the future, like how is the world different because of what Vista is doing?
Okay, so 7 years in the future,
Whatever year you feel like throwing
there,
into the equation.
there are going to be 10,000 immigrant advocates. And they're going to be, people will understand what an immigrant advocate is, like, because what we're doing through Vista is creating a model of adding an additional layer into the legal services ecosystem, akin to nurse practitioners, but in the in the medical field. So 50 years ago, believe it or not, there were no nurse practitioners. Nurse practitioners started when the University of Colorado started training them a little bit more than 50 years ago. And now imagine if we had the COVID pandemic and we didn't have nurse practitioners or physicians or assistants or all these other career paths that started 50 years ago in the medical field. What I'm hoping to do through Vista is to create a proof of concept that we can train people who are not going to get a JD, but who could have a limited focused education and provide limited legal services. So, in addition to everything that's happening in immigration, and that has basically been on the books for decades, there's a movement nationwide to expand the categories of legal service providers beyond JDs. So earlier today, I spoke with someone from Oregon, and the Oregon State Bar in the summer started a process where they're authorizing non-lawyers to provide legal services. They're also doing that in Arizona, in Utah, in Minnesota. So my goal is to have a proof of concept that we can teach them and they can be effective, and then use that to create models for other areas like landlord-tenant. I mean, think about all the people who are being evicted from their homes today because they aren't able to pay rent because they lost their jobs because of COVID. They need advocates too. So my goal is to create this as a model and hopefully propel people to start providing legal services even beyond immigration. So I'm excited.
Michelle, are there particular areas of either academia or types of like undergraduate students that you've, I don't know, been surprised by interest in the category or fit with
Yeah, so
advocacy?
so we have so many students from a really broad variety of backgrounds. Like we have students who are interested in peace and justice, political science, of course, those who are thinking they're pre-law and they want to go into law school, but also public administration, social work. There are some people who are in the program now who are librarians. There's a few people from the healthcare community, educators, people who are thinking of going into like K through 12 education, and they want to understand immigrants because they're going to be serving in immigrant communities. There's a lot, in addition to becoming an immigrant advocate, this type of education can be helpful for people who are going to serve immigrants in their current careers as well. Yeah. So I realize it's already 3:45. Wow. Does anyone else have any questions before we close? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. And we'll share more information through Ashoka so that we'll keep you posted on everything that we're doing. Have a great day.